daily I'm putting out bids for half to a quarter million and closing $500,000 weeks. This is a big hack for people.
Hi, I'm Karl, your host for Beyond the Toolbox, and today I'm joined with Chance from P or Chance from what was the company again?
Skyrite Roofing and Gutters.
Skyrite Roofing. But then you also run Framework Ops LLC,
I
right?
do.
So can you tell
Yep.
me a little bit about Framework Ops? Like, what does that do? Like, who are y'all?
Yeah. We have some big things coming up with Skyrite. So I'm shifting somewhat into focusing just on the commercial side, which has freed up some of my time. We've got a lot of good hires. And then my wife also decided that North Idaho cold is not what she likes. So we're moving to Florida in
Oh,
July. We're in the process of moving, relocating. So I'll be running fully remote. So I've branched out into kind of getting people to where we got, starting in with a couple $1 million company and helping them get to that $5-10 million stage. So working with specifically home service companies, primarily roofing, but the same thing applies to plumbing, HVAC, those home service trades, getting in there and helping them get the processes set up. I found that a lot of those owner operator businesses are ran by just one guy with a lot of vision and a lot of skills in his trade. He handles all the estimating, he handles all the sales. He's handling all these things. So getting that structured in a way where he's either getting the right hires in place, he's using the right systems, he's putting it overseas when it needs to be so that he can leverage his time to not work 90 hours a week and increase revenue.
so that's you mainly just optimize like hires, like the systems. Do you do any like follow-up processes or sales processes or?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I would say the financial accounting part of it, the sales follow up, building estimating systems, and then just overall looking at the organization structure. I don't do leadership coaching. I don't do consulting in that way. I'm more of an implementer. So I'll come in, kind of do an operational audit, see what's working, see what the bottlenecks are, make recommendations, and then even implement those recommendations to get people going. So not something you hire where you're stuck paying someone for a year. I would say most of my engagements are 2 to 6 months. Some of them might even just be one-time project based, depending if they've got it to the 90% line and they're just like this estimating, just this one system is broken. How do I consistently churn out, B2B commercial bids and just get them knocked out? I can come look at that process, see what their target market is, get that all set up. That way they can get someone in the seat who's doing it at a reasonable price and very consistently.
And I'd love to talk about commercial in a moment because I know a lot of roofing contractors are just like commercial's like the best thing ever. They don't want to deal with residential and their $1 million contracts. But like, what are some of those warning signs? It's time to, tighten things up in terms of processes. Like, what do you tend to see going wrong the most when you come in and try and help?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can vary, but I would say the biggest one is that the owner's burning out. They're a newer stage business. They're at the 1 to 3 year mark. They've been growing rapidly. He's making great money. Reviews are good. Like company is running well, but he's been running at 60, 90, 100 hours a week for that entire period to ramp it up. And he's getting to the point, or he or she is getting to the point where they're losing the love of the game because they've been doing it so much. They're just like, do I want to push this to 5 million? Like we're at 2.5 now. The money's good, but like, how do I get out of this cycle? Because they don't have the time anymore. The other one I see a lot is inconsistent margins or lack of job costing at all, which is really unfortunate. Like I pretty much everyone is using some form of estimating system. So in a perfect world, you know that my material's this, my labor's this is my cogs. We won't even get into net. We can dig into that in a minute if you'd want.
Yeah,
But you
let's
should
do
be
it.
selling the jobs at the margin that you put into your estimating system. The two biggest things I see is sales in general having the ability to affect those margins depending on how they're paid beyond what the owner actually wants to see and how that impacts net. The second one is stale labor and material pricing. Like an estimating system is a must. You need to have it. But if you've gotten 3 price increases from ABC and no one's in charge of making sure that data is clean and that the pricing is live and updated, and you're selling on last year's shingle prices and your sub crew's done 2 bumps, or 3 of those crews got deported and you've already found a new one who's got a 25% higher rate and it's not updated in there, you're really selling at 28% when your goal was 40. And you do that for 6 months and then you realize your margins have just tanked. Um, those are the two biggest things I see. And then obviously you got like production output. Is it just done by brute force? I just like, oh, the jobs are coming in next week, get the crews out there, materials out there. There needs to be a very structured, clean system on like how it's done, what the flow it goes through to get there. And we do a tremendous amount of standing seam. We run all our own panels, an in-house trim shop, things of that nature. So vertical integration, not everyone can get there, but that was a big step we took that I really wanted to push with doing standing seam, having that control instead of having to go out, do takeoffs, wait 2 weeks for panels, begin the roof. Doing it in-house whenever the capital will allow. If you're a standing seam company, you get a new tech or you get a roll former of your choice. You get a break as soon as you can. Even if you're leveraging loan capital to get that, the return on investment is incredible.
Do you guys see like pushback from people being like, "Oh, metal's a little bit more expensive. Like, I'd rather just get the shingle stuff." Like, do you guys see a lot of pushback
Oh,
on that?
yeah. I mean, I would say it's client based. So, I mean, up here in North Idaho, we first off are we're in Sandpoint where we're located. So it's a pretty expensive place with our ICP or ideal client generally isn't. Oh, lost my headphone there.
It's
We'll
all
start
good.
over. No, our ideal client isn't um, super price sensitive, so we have a benefit there. Like if you're in a storm market or a residential area where things are going for $400 to share shingles, you're gonna have major pushback. So we have two main type of clients. The one who just wants an affordable roof. They've lived here. They're in a $300,000 to $500,000 home. They just want a roof that'll protect their family. Of course, they're not going to be the person who wants to spend twice as much on standing seam. But for the second, third home people that are up here in a $3 million lake house, very little pushback. If they want metal, that's what they're going to get. So it's mostly customer driven. They're pretty clear that it costs more. They really just want what they want. And then in the new construction and commercial market, it how the plan is drawn is how it gets. And a lot of these newer styles are a low pitch that requires standing seam. So it's just kind of part of the process now. I would say it makes up almost the majority of our business at this point.
Okay, so you recently talked about something where you've seen contractors double revenue and like half margins. Could you talk about that? Like, what do you mean by doubling revenue and halving margins?
Yeah. So, I mean, especially on the commercial side, it's not like it's a silver bullet, but we'll just use the traditional model of residential roofing. So, I mean, you could either have marketing, you're buying leads, you're bringing in leads, or you could have the door knocking model.
Hmm.
I mean, model number three is not going extinct, but it's not as scalable. Like local company, owner operator, reputation, word of mouth referrals. That model it's fine. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying it doesn't work. If you want to be an owner operator, the guy's been around for 15 years. He's got one or two crews he runs. He's doing maybe 2 million a year. It's a fine model. It will never scale beyond that because it doesn't have any engine for it to grow. So we'll just put that one to the side.
Yeah.
It exists. Everyone, I know it exists. It's a viable model. You can make fantastic money. It's not the model we're discussing for this. Um, so you're buying leads. You have your cost per lead. You know what it is. You're happy with that cost per lead. You can scale it to infinity as long as you can produce. You have the commercial. You're getting on bids lists. They're coming into you. With the scale to infinity, we're buying leads model. You have, obviously your crews that produce. They're fixed labor generally. I can't assume all of them. Some of you guys might be running in-house crews. It makes up a very, very small portion of the market. So we'll say they're subcontractors at a fixed labor price. We know what our material cost is for every job we're selling. We should have our contribution margin or our gross margin of X%. That shouldn't change. So it's going through linear like this. What you do need, depending on how big you are or how much time the owner's putting in, is, I mean, at minimum, you're going to need an operations or logistics manager. Like you have someone who's ordering all the shingles, who's doing all the scheduling, who's doing the client outreach. If you want to have a good reputation, you at least have someone who's there answering the phones. You have a bookkeeping service, whether it's internal or external. You should, I'm not going to say you do or you have to, you should have a site super for every one or two jobs who's out there checking on the quality, making sure the customer's taken care of, doing cleanups, taking photos, collecting checks. So you have a lot of moving parts to produce those retail roofs. And depending on your market, I mean, you're 15, 30,000. We have pretty high ticket roofs here because it's a resort lake town. But for most markets in the US, I'd say you got a small dollar amount roof and you have to do 10 of them a week to hit the number you're trying to hit. So scaling that just means that your shingle person can only order and schedule so many shingles before they start dropping the ball. The phone answerer can only answer so many calls. The site supers, you need one for X amount of jobs. Once you get to so many crews, you almost need someone dedicated to just running crews. So as that model scales, the overhead has to scale pretty significantly with it. Like you might be able to start cutting that back. You got two killer operations managers who are running 100 jobs a week or whatever it might be. You can pare it down somewhat, but it is somewhat tied to each other. There's going to be a strong correlation as it grows that your overhead's growing with it.
Yeah.
So with the commercial model or generally just doing new construction in commercial, a couple big benefits. One, you mentioned it, like 250,000, 500,000. Daily, I'm putting out bids for half to a 250,000 and closing $500,000, $1 million weeks. The benefit to those, I mean, they're higher risk, they're higher liability, they take a lot more knowledge to estimate. But once you've got that system dialed in, you could be paying one guy 1 to 150 a year. They're not going to be cheap. You don't want that hire to be a cheap guy. They need to be good. They need to be an executor. They need to know their stuff. But instead of having to have 5 roles, you could essentially have one guy who gets paid well and one site super who rolls and floats between the job, because those jobs, they go over a longer period of time. You're not having to tear off and replace 3 of them a day. You might be out on a project for several weeks. So you're only deploying and putting out those resources once. You also, realistically, with new construction and commercial, you need someone there to check on the sub crews and things like that to make sure it's going well. But no builder expects you to be there at 6 a.m., shake grandma's hand, do a magnet sweep, and you can hold your subs to a pretty high standard on cleanliness, quality. So you're having to do your checks, but it requires a lot less management and overhead. Like you could run a 10, $20 million commercial company with 10% overhead and double your net. Whereas if you want to get to that point with a residential retail company, it requires a huge amount of overhead. Like you have to scale with it. So that's what I've seen is, and we were able to double revenue in 1 year without hiring any additional people whatsoever. So, I mean, we have, let's call it 5 people for us that are running our retail division. And I launched the commercial division by myself, handling the estimating, project management, the entire thing. And it exceeded our retail division the first year. And I was like, wow, we didn't even need to hire. Like, I'm not going to do this forever. Obviously, we hire someone who does that. But I mean, for 150 grand, 125 grand, get someone who steps into that, even get them a site super for 60 to 80 a year who's running those jobs. If you're doing 10 million at a 20% overhead there, or that's like a 2% overhead for 200 grand, it's a easy model to scale once you kind of crack the code on how you get in with those builders and how you estimate it.
Which I do want to talk about that. Like, how does someone get into the commercial space? Like, I know people will reach out to me and be like, "Can you do lead gen for commercial?" I'm like, I can't do that. So it's like, how do you do it?
No, it that's what people, I would say, are more nervous and hesitant of. And there's a couple factors to it. Like you can't buy the leads. It's not a lead gen thing. It's not
Hmm.
how it works. And it depends on your market, but you're doing cold outreach, which makes it, people don't like it. They'd rather, like, in the retail, you have to run ads. That's how
Hmm.
you get B2C clients. B2B is outreach. It's, you're out there shaking hands, you're networking. You need to go join those local contractors groups, Chamber of Commerce, your local builders trade group. You go to builder trade shows, even if it's not, not your home and garden show to get your leads. Like you're going to the home builder show and you're going around and introducing yourself. You're calling and you're getting some people out for lunch or beers or coffee, whatever your method is. You need to be out there shaking hands, talking to people. You're doing a lot of calling. You're stopping by their office. Some of the bigger ones, and this is a sad secret truth. You're talking the big 100, 150, $200 million companies. You're likely just going onto their website and clicking a button that says become a subcontractor and filling out 2 pieces of paperwork and getting onto their bid list. And that is the God's honest truth, is that a lot of the bigger ones, they get so many requests that it's literally just a process where you go on there and submit a form and now you're on their bids list. It seems ridiculous that that's the when I found that out, I was like, are you serious? I could spend 3 days going through all the people we want to work with, and half of them just have forms that I submit online, and now I'm on their bids list. Like, that's the process. It can be as simple as that. Whether their scope of work is something you can even perform at your stage, that's what you need to be realistic about. If they're sending you a 1,500 square school and you're like, oh man, cool, $1 million job. If you can't execute on that $1 million job, you need to know where you're at in the stage of your company and what is safe for you to estimate, what's within your skill set to execute on, because the liability of messing up a giant job or a public works job is massive. So, I mean, what I would recommend for people is like, if your niche is shingles and you knock out shingles, look at a couple builders who are either doing tract home developments or who do apartment complexes. Like, find someone who's doing a lot of shingle work. You can see that they're there. Go to your vendor before you even get there and be like, hey, this is the venture I'm trying to do. I guess this is a big hack for people. You're paying 110, 120 a square. I don't know what your prices are. You're paying your price for shingles. Obviously, this is a commodity market. It's driven on volume. It's driven by how you execute. Before you even start trying to get into these apartments or things like that, go sit down with your sales rep at Beacon, ABC, whoever you're using, and be like, hey, this is what I want to launch. I know I'm going to need to be competitive on pricing. This is what I need. Push for a good number and it's not going to be the number you get for doing residential re-roofs, because same thing for them. It's an economy of scale. If they have to come out and load 3 roofs in one day and get their loaders up there and go through that whole process, of course they need to make more money than if they bring a semi truck and unload 800 squares of shingles at one job site one time. Your costing isn't even in the same ballpark. So you need to be clear about what you're trying to do with your supplier, so you have the best possible numbers in front of you before you go start bidding these projects with your retail shingle numbers, because they're not the same. You can get direct from factory where they're just drop shipping it. They're not even touching them, so you're not paying a handling fee. It's a different ball game. Same with your installers. Like, if they're charging you 70 a square to install, 50 a square to tear off, and that's their standard, let them know, hey, like, if I get you on a huge apartment complex, you're going to be there 2 weeks. What's the best possible number you can give me to deploy once and go knock out this huge job? Because just like the supplier and just like us, if they can go sit on one job for 2 weeks and not have to start and stop and load up their tools, and they can just go make great money for 2 weeks, they'll probably do it for less a square. So you get all those things in line and then start putting numbers in front of the people that are doing the kind of work that fits in with your niche before you just start bidding huge TPO membrane jobs, giant standing seam courthouses. If your experience is in the shingle world, cut your teeth on some big shingle jobs, get a couple of those under your belt, and see if you're even willing to deal with the paperwork, because it is admin heavy in terms of, oh yeah, I got my billing in by the 10th. Now I'm going to, or 20th, and I'm going to wait till the 10th, or maybe the 20th of the next month, or maybe the 10th of 2 months after that. You need to find the builders that you can work with, that you can float the capital on, that pay well, that communicate well. Just like homeowners, there's good ones and bad ones. So you're going to have to test your micro market and be like, okay, never will we work for them again. They were horrible to work with. They pay slow. There's a lot to it, but in a nutshell, I mean, you're honestly just reaching out. You got to want to have your ducks in a row first. Step one, get your ducks in a row so you don't make yourself look bad. Number 2, you just need to start reaching out and doing the ask. It's as simple as that.
It's just doing the work. I totally agree. And
yeah, it's
from
just
what
the
I've
ask.
heard, yeah, from what I've heard, commercial is like thin margins. Like, you may get $1 million job, but you gotta really hustle. So like that, I really appreciate you giving that piece of advice, because I've heard it's like really a hustle just to get 5% in your pocket off of $1 million job. And
Oh, okay. Maybe if you're talking a $750,000 membrane, like a big TPO job, ultra competitive. And the main reason for that is there's already 1,000 companies across the nation that have already found this hack that all they do is go and get onto these bids list. And then with the job that big, you don't even have to be located there. You send a crew anywhere in the nation for 5% and it's worth it for you. So for me, this is regional. You're going to get with people in your market, and you're not going to take on those $1 million jobs. I would say the sweet spot is 150 to 300,000. I never have to cut margins below 35%.
really,
Ever. Yeah. I mean, if it's we'll just use rough numbers. If it's our retail market and we're doing roofs, I might want to see it at 45. If it's my new construction builder market, I might want to see it at 35%. It's not like I'm selling these things at 10%. Why would you even do it? Like, what's the point of doing it? Leave those to the guy who will do it for 10%. There's enough builders out there who will value your work and you can sell at 30, 35%. It's not that cutthroat. When you get to the massive, massive jobs that are going to bring in traveling crews, sure. But if you're talking local office building or something like that going up, once you have a little bit of reputation with them and you've shown them maybe one project, you're doing it at 20 to get in there. But like once they see that you show up on time, just like a homeowner with Google reviews, once that builder knows that you show up, that you do exactly what you said you're going to do, that you're not hitting them with a bunch of change orders that aren't relevant, and you're doing your part, they pass on their bid. Public Works and some of the commercial is very price driven. But for a lot of like the new construction builder market, they're cost plus. They're passing that on to their clients. So if they know you're going to show up, deliver, and make their life easy, they're just going to pass on your costs. They don't necessarily need to go bottom dollar, lowest bid every time either, because they want their process to be easy. They would rather win one or two less jobs and know all their subs are going to execute than, win every single job, but go with the lowest bidder who then can't execute. And then they're struggling to close a project and get paid.
Okay.
So I would say it's positioning and who you're going after. Yeah, it is lower margins, but if you're doing any kind of work for 5, 10, 15%, you need to rethink your strategy.
Okay, because I thought it was way more cutthroat than that, so I appreciate you resetting my expectations. But I do want to talk about AI. Like we can't have a marketing podcast or operations podcast without talking about
Absolutely.
AI. Because I keep seeing these Instagram videos where it's like, I just replaced my entire sales team with AI. It's like, no, you didn't. Oh, I just replaced my entire follow-up team with AI. No, you didn't. So have you used AI at all at Skywrite or in Framework Ops LLC to help people out, or how has that been?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I mean, framework ops, I would say a lot of it, because I'm not a huge like coaching leadership, like that part I don't really touch. I'm not saying there's not people out there who provide killer value with that, but as someone who's run small to medium businesses, paying someone $2,000 a month to come in and just talk to you on a Zoom meeting 2 hours a week, like they quickly lose the warm and fuzzy feeling about just paying you to sit there and chat with them. So I come in and implement framework ops it's just me. So it is pretty much all AI driven except for myself. Like I drive strategy, I'll check deliverables, but it's built out where it runs. All that stuff happens by itself. Skywrite, absolutely. Sales team, no. If you're replacing your sales team with AI, like maybe show me how it's done and I'll buy into it.
I don't think it's gonna happen. No way is someone gonna buy from just like a robot standing in their living room.
It's not. Maybe maybe e-commerce, like maybe there's a setting for it. Home service companies, like your AI is not going to be going out and inspecting roofs. It's not going to be finding that if there's a second layer of shingles, that it's on skip decking. Like we're not there yet. It's not happening. Talk to me in 12 months. Maybe the drone that's flying out there and doing attic inspections, maybe it's there. For commercial, I definitely have built out. It's not going to replace me, but what it can do is say I get 20 bid requests a week. At this point, I set up a central email that's just this email. I've trained my AI agent to, like, these things come in, I check the link, I pull it up, I get all that information downloaded, I automatically onboard that client into our CRM. I'm automatically parsing those things, going through, getting me all the measurements on the roofing scope, on the siding scope, depending on what I want. It can scan through your entire Division 7, get you all the specs. I could spend 4 or 5 hours going through a 700-page spec book for a big commercial job. So, yeah, some of these, they're telling you how many times to screw in a screw on a light bulb. It gets pretty granular on commercial work. So it can be a big time suck. So that portion of it, I've gotten to the point where it will get me a couple page breakdown of like, hey, based on how you've trained me, you probably don't want this one. It's got X, Y, and Z red flag. Cool, kick it out. Or like, hey, this one's great. This is right within your scope. This hits your niche. This is the takeoffs for the whole building. These are the areas that I think are going to be good. These are the couple of things that are going to be an RFI. And then it takes down my 4 or 5 hour process to review a job to 30 minutes. Then I can pop into the plans, be like, okay, like, yep, you didn't miss on in Division 7. That looks good. And once you've trained it and iterated on it, like, it's good. It's a computer. it knows how to read a document and pull. If you tell it what section this stuff lives in, it will do exactly what you asked it to do and bring it over there. Obviously, trust but verify. Like you're not going to send out a $500,000 bid without checking that it got the specs right.
Hmm.
But the intake and like getting things ready for you process 100% automatable. That's one of the big things I'll be bringing in with framework ops for people, as people who are still doing that whole process manually and paying an estimator 40 hours a week to come and do that. Like leverage that person for the same 40 hours a week, but that means they can get 4 times more bids done and you're getting bids in front of 4 times as many people. That part should be automated. If that's not automated, you're missing the boat big time. What it won't replace in the commercial is critical thinking, looking at things and being like, cool, it got me the bid specs. And then you look at the plans and you're like, whoa, like that's actually not going to work in the real world. I need to contact this builder and let them know, like, this isn't a good concept. There's a better way to do it. It's not going to be as good at value engineering as a real person looking at real like context and say, hey, we could save someone money here. I need to talk to them and see if they're interested in value engineering or if they want this thing overbuilt. It's not going to be it's not going to go meet people for lunch, do handshakes, and build you those relationships that actually really close a lot of deals. It's not going to be closing deals. It's not going to, make that call and close the final deal, overcome objections in real time in the way that a skilled professional, like it's not going to show the confidence that I show walking through a $500,000 bid that's going to make that builder say, cool, like I think he's got this, he understands the scope, he's going to make sure we're taken care of. If you want it to be a chat bot that responds to them, hey, I have a question, oh, no problem, like it can overcome objections, sure. It's not going to replace the human portion of it,
Yeah, I don't
but
think so either.
it should can and should replace the intake, the measuring, the reading through the spec books, getting things to the 80% line. That way you can come do the part that requires critical thinking. That should already be done. There's no way I could be doing launching framework ops and be selling $10 million a year in commercial unless it like you have to have that. If not, I was spending 60 hours a week just doing my estimating. And it's getting to the point now where I could probably, I don't know, spend 10, 15 hours a week and close as many deals as I want because like I'm just doing review and then I can look at the ones that I know are going to be high margin money makers and I can call the rest. And then I can put time into reviewing those. And I can, instead of spending a bunch of time pouring over spec books, I can spend that time calling those builders and being like, hey, I got this one, I got this project, questions here, building that relationship, doing those touch points, doing the follow ups, the things that actually close you deals. Reading through a spec book doesn't close you a deal. It makes sure you don't lose money on a deal.
Yeah, I truly I'm kind of with you here on this one. I know a lot of like mom and pop shops, and it's sad to see, but I feel like the roofing market is getting a lot more sophisticated. Like people are getting smarter. Like folks like
Yeah.
yourself are implementing AI, and some of them are still scheduling people on notebooks. So I really,
I,
yeah, I hope that someone sees this and hires you to do that intake because it's always great to see a roofing contractor succeed, but at the same time, like there's like for every one person who like has the AI does something right, there's like five other people who are still scheduling people on notebooks. So
it's
it's
gonna hey, it's definitely like it's already happening. It's been happening over the last couple of years. It's only getting better and better, and people are aware of that. Some people don't want to deal with it, which I completely understand. My wife is one of those. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Honey, if I don't, like, if I don't, I'm not like, do you want the kids to have a roof over their head? Because this is what needs to happen if I want to keep up with the times." Um, yeah, I mean, in 12 months, 24 months, I mean, we're going to see a massive bell curve of the amount of smaller shops that aren't implementing that are just getting drowned out. They might have their local word of mouth business where they still have enough to survive. They're not going to be growing, scaling. They're not going to be keeping up. There's going to be, PE companies buying out the three local companies around them, merging them into one, drowning them out with systems. And I mean, they're going to have kind of the crumbs, unfortunately.
it's sad. It's sad, but
It is.
it's getting
It's just,
sophisticated. It's been very, and from my position, it's been very unsophisticated with the lack of
yeah.
adoption of technology and advertising. But I mean, we can't say that because there's a lot of just bad actors who came in and burned a lot of people. So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. But is there a couple KPIs that you like really hone in on when it comes to commercial? That's something that someone else trying to do commercial should focus on.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, I mean, obviously margins. Like,
Yeah.
I guess this is when we can kind of get into because KPIs for me are set top down from strategy. So like
Hmm.
you're, I don't want to say like, hey, you better have a 50% close rate or a 10% close rate, like, or you better be at this margin, or you better have an SLA to have bids out 2 days before bid due date, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because when it comes to KPIs or even the margins you're selling at, all that needs to be set top down from the owner, founder, the strategy of the company. Like, unless they know what they want in terms of, like, obviously everyone wants as much as possible, but we need to really start every year, the previous year in the fall, we need to be doing pro forma financials. We need to be doing budgeting. We need to look at the company and like, okay, cool. We did 4 million this year. Our goal is 6 million this next year. Like, what hires is it going to take to get there? Have we done a break even analysis? Have we done pro forma financial statements? Like, what net do I actually want next year? At the end of the year after salaries, like, what makes it worth it for me to run this company? What's my ceiling, what's my floor? Like, okay, I'd be really bummed out if we had a growth year but we hit 8. Like, that's bottom line. I'm not willing to do it for any less. I'd be happy if we were at 12. Goal is 15. Like, once you have the net and then you've done your pro forma financial statements and like, okay, cool, this is our expenses this year, these are the areas we're going to cut, these are the hires we're going to have to make, these are where it's going to grow. You're going to know what your net is. You're going to know what your cogs is for, hopefully you're going to know what your cost of goods is for selling your material and producing your job. I got this here. Then you can build out a break even analysis table and say, okay, like, cool, based on this different range of revenues from 4 to 6 million, if I keep my cogs at these 4 different points, I have these 4 tables. I can look, okay, cool, if I'm selling, I hit 5 million at 40% and the owner wanted 15% net, like, that aligns. That's where I need to be. That means I need to keep my overhead here. You know what money you have for hiring. You know what money you have for capital expenses. You know what you need to sell at for margins. You know what volume you need to sell at for margins to hit the goal. If you don't have that information, like, I'm not really sure how you would do it. I'm a numbers driven person. So like, I only do it off data. Obviously, you can't just say, oh, cool, 40%, 5 million, we're going to get him as 15% and go. It obviously, like, you might get to spring and be like, dang, we're not closing enough deals. Like, we need to pivot. We need to cut 2%. That way we can close more deals, fill out the pipeline. Of course, but then you better be looking where that impacted on the table. Like, where am I getting back that 2%? Or do I need to sit down with owner and be, hey, it was a slower spring season. We needed to do this to make sure we had the volume to hit our volume goals, to wash our overhead. It's likely we're going to be at the 12 to 13%. We're within the range you want to be at. You can't just be making these decisions off like, oh, owner said he wants $1 million this year. Like, how are we realistically getting there? I'm not saying it's unachievable, but like, if what that means is that we need 6 million in volume, what's our marketing plan? How are we going to bring in those leads to hit the 6 million? Everything, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that you really need to be sitting down and looking at it holistically, and not just hoping the phone rings or hoping we buy ads and leads come in. We're like, cool, we're selling. That's going to bring us more revenue, which hopefully is at the margins we want, which is hopefully washing the overhead that we're spending and hopefully achieving our unknown net goal for the owner. Like, unless, whether the owner's driving it or whether he has someone who's driving, CFO, COO, however that works, someone has to know what the goals of the company are, or there's no way you're going to be setting a good KPI. Because if I get this question so much, like, okay, what are the first 3 things you're going to come in and do to fix this operation? And then I'm like, any consultant or person you're hiring that's is just said, oh yeah, don't worry, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I have no idea until I look at your business and like sit down with the owner and go through like what your actual goals are and what you're trying to achieve and what your like biggest issues and what your strengths are. I can't give you any kind of valid answer, and it would be a disservice for me to just say, hey, I'm just pitching myself. I'm going to do these 3 things. You're going to see a 10% gain. It's going to be killer. Because you need to look at it is all contextual based off the situation. Someone's 3 things might be completely different than the 3 things for someone else. So anyone selling you a service and telling you they're going to do X, Y, and Z before they even have an idea about what's going on in your business, red flag to
Real
me.
red
Big
flag.
red flag.
And
Like, the yeah, not good.
dude, I I think you would have a lot of benefit for a lot of like contractors we spoke to because like they have. Sorry, I don't want to dog on other people, but
No, it's just how the industry runs. Like if the amount of people, and I get it. If you're doing 2 million a year and you're taking home three, four, 500,000, like, yep, you're in a great spot. You have a great income. It's a fantastic place to be. I'm not saying that's bad, but there's no way it grows kind of beyond a certain ceiling without financial transparency and a plan. I would say the majority of people I've met and worked with in our space, yes, they know their margin they want to sell at, especially if they're using estimating software. I'm maybe 10, maybe 20% are like doing a post-mortem job by job costing. Like
I don't even know what that means. That's how you know most people don't do that.
right. Yeah. I mean, so like we hope, let's just talk broad financials. You would assume that like bare minimum, they're doing it themselves or they have a bookkeeper. Let's say I pray they're at least doing like monthly reconciliation of their accounts, hopefully reviewing P&Ls and balance sheet. We'll put the balance sheet aside. That can be a more long-term thing. You hope that at least P&Ls are getting reviewed once a month and you at least know where your numbers are at in terms of percentages, because just running it off your bank account balance and being like, cool, we got 400 grand in there, like we're good, until you're like, oh wow, we owe $360,000 to ABC and I have 100,000 in sub invoices. Like no, not actually good.
Yeah.
So I mean, like you would hope bare minimum P&Ls are getting checked on some kind of consistent tempo. Monthly is fine, weekly is better. Hopefully it's not going beyond monthly. Hopefully your accounts receivable is actually like, yes, obviously we collect on our bills, but like you're able to forecast that, like, oh, we got 400,000 in there. It's going to land in this time period. It lines up with these bills. This is when it's going to be coming in and out. I would like to assume that that's getting done somewhat. That's not super consistent. Most of them have something going on there. Where I find that it really breaks is, for one, you're reviewing the P&L, but did you do like a pro forma, a projected financial analysis for the next year or the next quarter? It doesn't have to be done on that far of a thing, but unless you have a goal in mind, besides just that I sell at 45%, that means I should be at this. If you don't have a tangible idea of like, these are the goals we had, and you're checking it against a benchmark to see if it's going up or down, or the actions you're taking are actually making a difference, it's really hard to make meaningful change. And then the post-mortem, so like the job by job costing, ideally, every single job that pays or gets closed out has its job specific costs allocated to it. So you have some way of saying like, cool, sales sold it at 45. All the bills are in, they're paid. Oh, we hit 44. Like, cool, a 1% variance, like big whoop. Doesn't really make a difference. But you need to be able to see trends. Like if you're like, oh wow, we're actually hitting 52, we sold at 45, like that's great. If your closing rate is good and you're closing the percentage you want, like fantastic. You're landing high. That's good. You have some kind of good mistake. If you're consistently several percent below or even more seeing spikes from where you're estimating, so like what your estimating system says you should be landing at, but your actual landed costs and what you're paying does not align with that, something is broken. And like if you're just trusting your estimating system and saying, cool, we sell at our 45%, that's what we're going to have. I have 25% overhead. I'm going to have 20% net. It's going to be fantastic. And you get to the end of the year and you're like, I hit 10%. What happened? It was the marketers. You have to know where the money is bleeding. So like if you're not doing any kind of job costing to stay on top of that, and you're just waiting to see lagging indicators like your P&L at the end of the year, it's not good. Like you need to be checking that. Once again, I would say bare minimum is monthly. You went through every job, and if you let it get that long, it's harder to go through. If you go through it on more of a weekly cadence and just have someone who's assigned to doing that, whether it's senior leadership or the bookkeeper, the guy paying commissions, like there's a lot of people you could train to do it and have them do it, and it's not hard. Once again, I mean, like super automatable. I mean, like that stuff going to QuickBooks or it's going to Xero. It's coming straight from your suppliers. Use a job number. So all the bills, the sub invoices, everything is tied to one number. It compiles that into your CRM or into a spreadsheet, wherever you want to be. You have your actual planned and you have your variance. Just do a freaking simple color coded thing. Green if it hits, red if it doesn't. You're like, oh, wow, I have 4 that didn't hit. My average variance is 2%. Let me look at these couple jobs. Oh, cool. We have a change order that we let slide because Granny was nice and we didn't charge her for the second layer. Perfect. That 2% is justified. Or like, wow, this salesperson, every time they're 2% low, are they throwing in free things they're not quoting for? You're going to actually be able to see trends and fix things if you know what's happening. If you're, that's the biggest thing I find. And it's not a fault of any kind of business owner. It's just like, we are all super busy. If you're putting in 80 hours a week just to keep the ship going and closing deals and bringing things and trying to hire an office lady and finding a sub crew because you lost your last one, of course you're not thinking about doing job by job costing. Like you have actual big fish to fry. But in the grand scheme of things and it's growing, someone needs to think about it and it needs to get onto the plate or we're going to have issues.
You're like a COO and a CFO, which I really appreciate that, especially with the CFO part. What do you think people should just like a couple actionable things they should do to like actually know if their numbers are looking good? Like I don't know what a pro forma is. I don't know what a
Sure.
post-mortem like what should they do to like make sure they're not bleeding money? If you can share. Because if
Oh,
this
no,
is
no,
your secret
totally. I'm
thing.
just trying to think of where you even start with that. Step one, care more about than just the bank balance. Every business owner obviously does this to make money. No one is doing this because they're like, man, I'm gonna be a roofing company owner. It's what I'm going to do. Maybe you have a huge passion about it. Obviously, that makes it a lot easier. That's how a lot of people get into it. But we run businesses to make money. That is the purpose of running a business. Anyone who says anything else, like even a nonprofit, yes, it might have a vision, it's helping, it's benefiting people. And some of those, purely that is the case. But the reason some of the people work there are because they get a large salary. Like every business, essentially, at least for profit businesses, its goal is to make money and to provide shareholder value if it's publicly traded. That's root cause. That's what we do. Um, Steps they need to take.
Let's just
It's
hone
kind
in
of
on
like the
like commercial
yeah,
projects.
it's kind of like the this question you had or the question I get all the time about first 3 steps you're going to take.
Yeah.
It is so dependent on their exact business and what they don't know. Because like maybe they already have a bookkeeper, maybe they have like no financial system, and like you need to start at a bookkeeper, or you need to start here. They need to either get someone in there to talk to about it, or they need to look at their, this applies to everyone, they need to look at their financial system in general and like what steps does it take. Like, do we have a documented invoicing and AR collection process? Do we have our cost of goods sold documented? Do we have a P&L in QuickBooks or Xero that we are actually bucketing costs into, or does it just say income, expenses, owner net profit? Unless you have a chart of accounts set up, which if you don't know, like you need a chart of accounts, it needs to be set up. You need to be reviewing and documenting transactions where they belong so you can actually make meaningful change. You need to have consistent bookkeeping. Like you start with those steps. From there, you can start refining and like getting things into fine categories. I would say if they're like listening to it, or if you're chatting with someone and none of that rings with them, they need to probably spend 1 or 2 grand and either talk to a fractional CFO or talk to a really skilled bookkeeper. I'm gonna shoot you straight. Accountants are not, like, accountants are for tax compliance. Some very small pool of accountants, and I have nothing against accountants or lawyers, but their role is compliance. So you might get a really good one who's going to offer you some kind of advice on that. They generally do not really offer any type of strategic advice. Like that's a big thing I find, is that people are like, I have a CPA, this is all handled. And you're like, they handle tax compliance generally. They're going to make sure that you are paying the appropriate amount of taxes. They may help you with tax strategy so that you're not overpaying in taxes. And they're going to make sure that the IRS isn't going to screw you when you have an audit. Very rarely are they offering any form of meaningful strategic business advice, how you should be doing anything to make decisions. Like there's financial accounting and there's managerial accounting. Financial accounting is for tax compliance reasoning. Managerial accounting is in-house accounting done for making business decisions. And a good bookkeeper may give you something there, but I mean, realistically, you're talking a different caliber of person, especially in the roofing space, if you want it to apply to how you're actually changing your business. So I would say step one is look at it. And if you don't, like, you don't understand it, or you only understand it in terms of I know how to bid jobs, I know how to make money, which step one, great. You need to chat with someone on it. And like, depending on how important it is and how much you want to scale your business, if you're looking at growing your business and you want to expand, especially rapidly, you need to chat with someone. It's worth a couple of grand to really get with someone. And even if they just sit down with you for 2 weeks and they build out a framework and you execute it yourself, totally doable. But you need someone to map what that looks like and what you should be looking at, because it's a big thing to unpack. It's not some, there's no silver bullet.
Yeah. Would that be you?
Oh, yeah, that's part of the main thing I do. I would say is set that up and do financial analysis. I mean, I'm a numbers guy.
Hmm.
Automation obviously is huge. You do it to save time and money. I'm a numbers and data driven person, so like that's just how I operate. I don't think you can really operate any business without having dialed in financial systems.
So you got all the financial systems and all the operation systems. You're basically a COO and a CFO at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I would say they align a lot. And if you're talking a sub $10 million business, you shouldn't have a CFO for a business until it is pretty robust. So
Yeah.
either that's like your general manager, your operations manager, your owner, like it's going to be one of those people until you've gotten very large. Because a true CFO, in my opinion, like if your owner or your ops manager, or your general manager doesn't understand P&Ls and financials to the point we're discussing in this podcast, like you got the wrong guy in the wrong seat. You need to be paying someone else. A CFO, like people hear that and they think it's like should be talking like what we're talking about is a base level stuff, really. A CFO, when we're using that title, those people, I couldn't be a CFO. I mean,
No.
we're talking um, let's give a couple examples. So when you're running a really, really big company with millions and millions and millions of dollars in profit, when you're dealing with billions of dollars in profit, how that money gets split between SBUs, how that money, when there's X amount of capital in an account, is going to get invested. Like, say we're an insurance company, like those money, they're taking our premium payments, they're not just putting that into an account. That money is then getting shipped off into high yield investments. That way they're earning 12% on our money. So when they actually have to pay out a claim, that money's not just coming. We don't pay in $1 million. It sits in the pool until someone has a claim. That wouldn't be a viable business model.
Hmm.
They take all our money from us. They invest it. They make money off our money. And then when they have to pay out, they pay out of the money they made off our investments. So a CFO is going to be looking more at like the best, highest leverage use of our capital, what amount we should have here, when we should be investing it, when we should look at initial public offerings, like be going public, when we need cash infusions, what the best rate of return is on our loan. Should we take out a loan to leverage this next big thing at 6% because we can get 9% on it? Heavy financial decision making in it's a whole nother level, I would say. You need your operations, your general, like when you're sub 10, 15, $20 million, you need an operations or a senior management person who understands financials at least to the point where they can make good decision making off them. And a pro forma, just for those who don't know, is essentially like you have your financial statements there at this point in time. We're going to take those, and to be frank, you're going to make a educated guess. It forecasting is a nice way of saying we are making an educated guess. We want to get to this next year. These are like run rate. We were at this. We were going to be at this. Our costs should go up this amount. But these are also the areas I want to adjust. And this is how I think I'm going to adjust them. You better not just say I'm cutting 10% of COGS without some concept of how you're going to do that. Because, yeah, that'll look great on the spreadsheet. But, like, if it's not actually achievable, then you're just full of shit. Like, you need to look at it and say, hey, like, cool, I'm going to cut it 10%. This is actually how I'm going to do it. And if whoever's putting it together can't justify the numbers they put together and the decisions they're making, once again, it's the wrong person to be doing it.
Yeah. So, well, if someone wants to connect with you, wants to jump on a call with you to basically audit their business, like you just mentioned, like where can they find you?
Yeah. Frameworkopsllc.com. You hop on the website there, check it out. There's some good content on there. You can look through the different offerings I have. They can go on there, book a free call. I'm happy to chat with them about their problems, see if it's even a fit, because a lot of people kind of just need a quick chat and to be like, hey man, like your problem isn't actually that deep. Like you got one small problem that you don't even need to pay someone for. Here's a free recommendation. Like take this step, see how it works. If that doesn't work and in a month you actually need serious help, let's chat again. But I'm all values referral. I'm if someone doesn't need help or doesn't need to be spending money, and I don't want clients who are even coming on and getting on retainer to like be stuck with me. You should not be paying someone thousands of dollars a month that's not an in-house employee in perpetuity. That is a bad system. So like my ideal client, 2 to 6 months, or even potentially just an ops audit to kind of give them a roadmap that they implement themselves. But they come on, we build out the systems are running, and I'm like, cool, either you're doing this yourself because we built the system and it's 10 hours a week of input and you're going to manage this as the owner or as the ops manager, or like we've built out these systems, here's the SOP, the job description, I'll help you with interviews, you get the person in at 50 grand a year. Like now you've got someone into that role, they're taking care of this whole thing, and you can focus on leveraging to the next step.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. I will link Framework Ops LLC down below. Go book a call with Chance. And I appreciate it, William.